Top 10 reasons why Amber Heard could face prison time in Australia. You may remember Amber Heard and Johnny Depp became infamous down under after the former couple illegally smuggled her Yorkshire Terriers into Australia during that trip in 2015. But it's no big deal if you don't remember, because the Australian government certainly does. Hi, I'm your host Bridget Shields, and let's take a deep dive into Amber Heard's legal trouble in Australia. Number 10. Illegal importation. In 2015, Heard and Depp defied Australia's Quarantine Act that required dogs entering the country from the US to be declared and spend 10 days in quarantine. The then couple landed in hot water after Heard brought their 2 dogs with her when she visited Depp down under as he filmed the 5th installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Heard allegedly said no on her immigration form when asked if she needed to declare any animals, which resulted in Heard getting in trouble with the Australian government for breaching biosecurity laws. The couple was told in May 2015 that they could either get the dogs out of the country or Aussie officials would put down the pups, named Boo and Pistol. When asked why Depp wasn't charged as well, the prosecutor's office said that there had been a lack of admissible evidence against anyone except Heard. 9. The Australian environment. The country has very strict animal import laws. When you really think about it, it's no surprise that the government came down so hard on Amber Heard, since Australia is isolated geographically and some of its wildlife are found only on that continent. Any disruption to the natural balance, such as the introduction of non-native animals and their associated diseases, could ripple through the ecosystem. Basically, the penalties for offenders are so tough because the country's animals are so vulnerable, and due to the isolation of being on a literal island, the native animals are highly susceptible to visiting animals' contagions because they've never had the chance to develop resistance. So realistically, Heard bringing the 2 dogs into the country without an import permit and without first subjecting them to a mandated quarantine was a recipe for disaster. Number 8. Video apology. The Hollywood couple had to apologize to the Australian public for their terrier's unauthorized visit down under in a very awkward public act of remorse. A scripted video in which Depp says Australians are just as unique as their wildlife. The video was submitted to the court as Miss Heard escaped conviction for failing to declare the couple's dogs Pistol and Boo when visiting Depp in May. Even Australia's Deputy Prime Minister, Barnaby Joyce, said that the couple were less than willing participants in the video. The actors described Australia as a wonderful island with a treasure trove of unique plants, animals, and people, and warned others to respect its laws. Quote, Australians are just as unique, both warm and direct. When you disrespect Australian law, they will tell you firmly. It is not clear whose idea that video was, but reports said that Australian prosecutors had vetted the dialogue beforehand. Reaction on social media was swift and brutal, with many comparing the short film to government propaganda. Number 7. Her defense team. Another reason why Heard is still facing legal trouble for the incident in Australia is because of her lawyer at the time. The actress's attorney in 2015 was Jeremy Kirk, and he told the court that his client never meant to lie on her incoming passenger card. Kirk said that the actress was simply jet-lagged and just assumed her assistants had sorted out all the paperwork. Quote, she has made a tired, terrible mistake, but that reasoning fell on deaf ears as prosecutor Peter Callahan said ignorance and fatigue were no excuse and that the laws apply to everyone. Kirk reportedly cited video evidence that the actress made in a gesture of contribution over her alleged breaches of Australia's 108-year-old quarantine laws, claiming that his client made no attempt to hide the dogs at Brisbane Airport and she did not understand the meaning and significance of declaring no to customs questions about having animals. 6. Publicity. At the time, the then Agriculture Minister Barnaby Joyce criticized the actress and actor for bringing the animals into Australia without properly adhering to the law. Quote, if we start letting movie stars, even though they've been the sexiest man alive twice, to come into our nation with pets, then why don't we just break the laws for everybody? Joyce, who now serves as Australia's Deputy Prime Minister, infamously said that it's time that Pistol and Boo buggered off back to the United States, so he basically told them to get lost. The comments elevated what might have otherwise been a local spat into a global delight for comedians and broadcasters all across the nation. Surprisingly, a large portion of the Australian public actually agreed with the minister's sentiment, and the couple started receiving widespread criticism down under. The Guardian even ran a dog death countdown ticker, while comedian John Oliver dedicated a more than 6-minute segment to making fun of the whole ordeal. Australia hadn't really heard much of Amber before the incident, but it's safe to say that it was terrible publicity. 5. The Senate meeting. A TikTok video was posted this week of a Senate meeting of the Rural and Regional Affairs and Transport Legislation Committee, which took place on October 21st released back in 2020. The clip showed Senator Tony Sheldon of the Australian Labor Party being asked about the timeline of the perjury investigation against Heard. Quote, "There was evidence presented in the London court case which suggested false statements were provided in the court case in Australia in 2016. So we're investigating that." In a TikTok video which was viewed more than 400,000 times, the politician said that as he understands it, the former estate manager of Johnny Depp, Kevin Murphy, said in a witness statement that he told Heard by mail, telephone, and in person that she could not take the dogs to Australia because the relevant paperwork and permits were not complete. As the clip came to a close, Lane then confirmed that this directly contradicted Heard's statement at the time of the trial, as she said it was a misunderstanding as she had assumed her husband's assistants had arranged the terrier's passage into the country. Number 4. Falsifying travel documents. Accompanied by her now ex-husband, Heard pleaded guilty to falsifying immigration documents in an Australian court in 2015, stating that she had made a mistake due to sleep deprivation. 2 months later, the actress was officially charged with 2 counts of illegally importing animals, and the case was closed after she pleaded guilty in a Queensland court for falsifying quarantine documents. She ticked a box on her passenger arrival card indicating that she had no animals when arriving by private jet in Brisbane on the 21st of April. For faking the documents, she ended up being placed on a good behaviour bond and copping a $1,000 fine. In fact, according to Guardian Australia, providing a false document on entry under the nation's Migration Act carries a maximum penalty of 10 years and a fine of $117,800 Australian dollars, which is really interesting considering that the actress only got a slap on the wrist for the whole incident, which the Australian public collectively felt was quite unfair. Number 3. Perjury. In a statement given to ET, a spokesperson from the Australian Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment said that they are, quote, investigating allegations of perjury by Ms. Heard during court proceedings for the 2015 illegal importation of her 2 dogs into Australia. They added that the investigations are ongoing over allegations that Heard lied under oath. This is incredibly serious as perjury carries a maximum jail term of 14 years, while illegal importation can result in a 7-year stretch under the Queensland Penal Code. In fact, the TikTok video of the Australian Senate actually showed confirmation of an investigation taking place. In the clip, Peter Lane, then listed as First Assistant Secretary of the Compliance Division, said that giving false testimony is an offence under the Crimes Act, so that is what they are now investigating. Number 2. Depp's estate manager. Kevin Murphy, the actor's former estate manager who worked for Johnny Depp for over 8 years, concerned Australian officials when he told the London court that Heard had ordered him to lie under oath to cover up the fact that she flew pets into Queensland on a private jet without even declaring them. In a written statement, Murphy told the High Court that he had repeatedly warned the actress about Australia's strict animal entry rules, but when the smuggling controversy went public, Heard demanded that he provide a false statement to the Australian court saying that she didn't know anything about the requirements. When Murphy said that he was uncomfortable with lying, Heard allegedly said, quote, "Well, I want your help on this. I wouldn't want you to have a problem with your job." He testified that Heard started threatening his job stability unless he cooperated with providing a declaration that supported her false account for the Australian proceedings. Number 1. Witness statements. Now this could definitely be the nail in the coffin for Heard when it comes to her legal trouble that she's still facing in Australia. Murphy, Depp's former estate manager, admitted during his testimony in London that he actually went along with Heard's demands. Quote, "Because of this, I felt extreme pressure to cooperate, despite knowing this would involve being untruthful." He later confirmed that he had in fact been contacted by the FBI and had agreed to provide Australian authorities with a witness statement. A representative for the Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment confirmed this, telling E! News, quote, "The department is seeking to obtain witness statements and once obtained, the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions will consider whether the evidence is sufficient to warrant pursuance on the matter." An attorney for Heard criticized the investigation, telling the outlet that the Australian government and the FBI are victimizing a person who has already been adjudicated to be the victim of domestic violence. Do you think Amber Heard will go to prison? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.